Oh, darlin', buckle up because what I'm about to spin is a yarn so tangled and twisty, it'll make your head spin faster than a ceiling fan in a Nashville heatwave. This ain't just some quick tabloid blurb. Nah, this here's the full-blown, knee-slappin', tea-spillin' saga of how Leanne Morgan, that firecracker of a southern comedian with a wit sharper than a butcher knife, strutted onto the Tonight Show stage like she owned the joint, only to leave Jimmy Fallon red-faced and the whole world buzzin' like a hive of Georgia honeybees. It's got drama, laughs, a dash of southern sass, and enough plot twists to fill a whole season of reality TV. So grab your sweet tea, settle in, and let's dive into this long, luxurious legend of a night that changed late night forever. It all started on a crisp autumn evening in New York City, the kind where the leaves crunch underfoot like they're auditioning for a Broadway musical, and the air hums with that electric buzz of showbiz magic. Leanne Morgan, fresh off a sold-out tour where she'd been packing arenas with her uproarious tales of minivan mayhem and marital misadventures, had finally landed her dream spot, guest hosting the monologue on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. At 52, with her signature blonde bob bouncin' and her eyes sparklin' like fireworks over the Smoky Mountains, Leanne was the epitome of down-home charm wrapped in a sequined sheath dress that screamed, "I'm here to slay, y'all." She'd flown in from her cozy Tennessee nest, kids in tow for a quick family vacay, her husband, the ever-patient Philip, wranglin' the brood while she prepped her jokes in the hotel suite, practicin' her drawl in the mirror till it dripped honey. Jimmy Fallon, bless his hyper heart, was in rare form that week. The man was ridin' high on a string of viral sketches, somethin' about him dancin' like a possessed leprechaun with Ariana Grande, and the pressure was on to keep the ratings hotter than a cast-iron skillet. He'd handpicked Leanne for the show because, as he told his producers in a pre-tape huddle, she's got that real, raw funny. Like if Lucille Ball grew up eatin' grits. Little did he know, Leanne wasn't just there to deliver punchlines, she was there to serve truth bombs, wrapped in the prettiest bow of southern politeness. The taping kicked off at 7 p.m. sharp, the studio lights blazing like the noonday sun, the audience, a mix of wide-eyed tourists and industry insiders, clapping like they were at a tent revival. The Roots laid down a funky groove as Jimmy bounded out, his grin wide as the Mississippi, launching into his monologue with zingers about the latest political kerfuffle, something vague about election drama, 'cause who needs specifics when you've got rhythm. Then, cue the fanfare. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the queen of clean comedy, Leanne Morgan. The crowd erupted as Leanne sauntered on stage, hugging Jimmy like a long-lost cousin at a family reunion, her perfume a whiff of magnolias and mischief. They settled into the plush blue couch, mic's hot, and Jimmy dove right in. "Leanne, I've been dyin' laughin' at your TikToks, that one about your kid's science fair volcano eruptin' with actual lava." "Gold," Leanne chuckled, her laugh like wind chimes in a breeze. "Oh, Jimmy, darlin', that wasn't lava, that was my patience finally blowin' its top. Motherhood's 90% plottin' how to hide the evidence and 10% prayin' the school doesn't call the fire department." The audience howled, and Jimmy slapped the desk, his eyes dancin'. It was magic, easy, electric, the kind of chemistry that makes producers pop champagne. But Jimmy, bein' Jimmy, couldn't resist crankin' it up a notch. Midway through, he pivoted to his infamous Wheel of Musical Impressions game, but with a twist. Southern edition. He spun the wheel, rigged, of course, for maximum chaos, and it landed on Leanne doing Dolly Parton as a PTA mom complainin' about gluten-free cupcakes. Leanne nailed it, warblin' in that twangy alto, "Jolene, Jolene, please don't take my last non-GMO brownie." The studio lost it, tears streamin', sides achin'. Jimmy, egged on by the cheers, jumped in with his own attempt, a nasally Jimmy Carter rantin' about energy conservation via casserole recipes. It was cute, it was fun, and for a hot minute, the whole room felt like one big, tipsy family barbecue. Then came the spark that lit the powder keg. Jimmy, sweatin' under the lights but ridin' the high, decided to improv a bit about celebrity egos. You know, Leanne, as hosts, we're just glorified babysitters for stars who think their latte order's a national security issue. He winked at the camera, but his eyes flicked to Leanne, testin' the waters. The crowd tittered nervously. Leanne's smile didn't falter, but her fingers tightened round her water glass like it was a lifeline. "Well, Jimmy, honey," she drawled, slow as molasses, "that sounds exhaustin'. But up here on this stage, ain't we all just tryin' to make folks forget their troubles for an hour? Or is it more about chasin' that next million likes? The air shifted, subtle as a storm cloud rollin' in. Jimmy laughed. A little too loud, a tad too forced, and steered back to safe harbor. Tell me about your book. You might be a redneck if it's hilarious. Leanne obliged, spinning a yarn about her chapter on Signs You're Married Too Long, where she described arguing over the thermostat like it's the Treaty of Versailles. Laughter boomed again, but the undercurrent lingered, thick as sorghum syrup. Off mic, during a quick commercial break, Jimmy leaned in, all boyish charm. That was gold, Leanne. You're killin' it. She patted his knee, maternal as ever. Just keep it real, sugar. Folks can smell fake from a mile away. Post-break, things unraveled like a cheap sweater in a dryer. Jimmy, perhaps feeling the sting of her earlier quip or just high on adrenaline, announced a surprise segment, a blind taste test of Southern verses. Yankee snacks. He wheeled out a cart laden with moon pies, boiled peanuts, and, God help us, lutefisk from his Norwegian roots. Leanne, prove the South's got flavor. The bit was meant to be light, but when Jimmy popped a peanut in his mouth and gagged dramatically, this is like eatin' a salted baseball. Leanne's fuse, already smolderin', caught fire. Bless your heart, Jimmy, she said, her voice honeyed but edged with steel, but that's the taste of home, sweat, soul, and a little grit. Up north, y'all got your fancy charcuterie boards and microbrews, but down south, we season with stories, not just salt. The audience leaned in, sensing the shift. Jimmy, missin' the cue, doubled down. Come on, admit it, Southern food's just comfort for folks who can't handle kale smoothies. It was a joke, sure, but it landed like a lead balloon, echoing every tired stereotype Leanne had spent her career dismantling. That's when the explosion hit. Leanne set down her moon pie, untouched, symbolic, and fixed Jimmy with a stare that could curdle milk. Jimmy Fallon, you sweet, misguided soul, she began, her accent thickening like gravy on a roux. I've sat here laughing at your games, playing along with your wheel-spinning circus, but let's cut the cornbread. This show's supposed to lift folks up, not poke fun at where they come from. You invite a woman like me, a proud, plus-size Southerner who's clawed her way from church basements to this blue couch, to be your exotic flavor of the week. And for what? To prop up your relatable everyman shtick while you sip kale in your Tribeca penthouse. The studio gasped, a collective inhale that sucked the oxygen right out. Jimmy's grin froze, his Adam's apple bobbing like a buoy in a gale. The Roots, drummer, Questlove, raised an eyebrow from behind his kit, muttering into his headset. Cameras rolled on, 'cause in TV, drama's the real ratings rocket fuel. Leanne wasn't yellin'. No ma'am, she was preachin', her words flowing like a river after a rain. I've got stretch marks from birthin' 3 miracles, calluses from lovin' hard, and jokes that come from hurtin' real and healin' louder. But you're dancin' around truths like they're cooties. Late night used to be about sharin' souls, Johnny Carson listenin', not just lip-sync battlin'. We've lost that, and it's breakin' my heart more than a bad perm. Jimmy stammered, hands flailin' like windmills. Leanne, I didn't mean, we're just havin' fun. But she was a freight train now, unstoppable. Fun, darlin', fun don't come at the expense of folks feelin' small. I walked in here thinkin' we'd swap stories, not stereotypes. You wanna know real Southern grit? It's gettin' back up after life knocks you flatter than a road-killed possum. And right now, I'm feelin' that knock. She paused, the silence stretchin', taut as a banjo string, then stood, slow, deliberate, like a queen risin' from her throne. The audience was pin-drop quiet, hanging on her every word. With a final, withering glance that mixed pity and fire, Leanne smoothed her dress, blew a kiss to the stunned crowd, "Y'all stay sassy, now," and turned on her heel. Her steps echoed off the studio floor, click-clack like Judgment Day boot heels, as she marched toward the curtain. Jimmy half rose, mouth open in a silent plea, but the words died on his lips. Stagehands parted like the Red Sea, and just before she vanished backstage, she called over her shoulder, light as dandelion fluff, "Jimmy, call me when you're ready for round 2, without the props." The fallout, oh, honey, it was biblical. The show cut to commercial faster than you can say, lawsuit, but not before the mics caught Jimmy muttering. Well, that escalated quickly. When they returned, he powered through with a monologue about his own awkward family dinners, turning lemons into lemon drop shots, but the damage was done. Clips hit the internet before the audience hit the streets. Hashtag Leanne walks out trending worldwide within the hour, racking up 50 million views by midnight. Twitter, or X, whatever they're calling it these days, exploded. Fans hailing Leanne as a badass icon, critics dissecting Jimmy's tone-deaf pivot, and memes sprouting like kudzu. Leanne is Wonder Woman, Jimmy is a deflated balloon animal. Backstage, chaos reigned. Leanne's team swarmed her tour bus, parked illegally outside 30 Rock, naturally high-fiving and hollering as calls flooded in. Netflix wanting a docuseries, SNL begging for a cold open, even Oprah texting, "Girl, you go." Philip cracked open a cooler of beers, the kids cheering like they'd just won the lottery. "Mama, did you just fire Uncle Jimmy?" her youngest asked, eyes wide as saucers. Leanne scooped her up, laughing till tears came. "Nah, baby girl, I just reminded him fire needs tending, not stomping." Jimmy, meanwhile, retreated to his dressing room, scrolling the backlash with a mix of mortification and admiration. By dawn, he'd posted a video, casual khakis, no makeup, apologizing without apologizing. "Leanne Morgan schooled me tonight, and damn if it wasn't the best TV I've made in years. She's the real deal. Let's do it again. My treat, sweet tea for all." It was classy, vulnerable, the kind of pivot that redeemed him in the eyes of skeptics. Ratings for the episode, sky high, the highest since the pandemic bounced back. Whispers swirled of a joint special, maybe even a podcast where they hash it out over biscuits and banter. But the real magic unfolded in the weeks after. Leanne's tour extended. Sold out stadiums from Atlanta to Austin, fans chanting, "Walk out. Walk out," as she retold the tale, embellishing with fresh flair each night. Her book hit #1 on the Times list, spawning a wave of truth in comedy workshops for up-and-coming funny men and women. She even started a foundation, Sass Without the Stereotype, funding scholarships for Southern storytellers from all walks. Jimmy, he mellowed his shtick, inviting more real talk guests, crediting Leanne in interviews. "She kicked my ass, in the best way. And me, well, if this tale teaches anything, it's that the juiciest stories ain't scripted, they're sparked in the friction of truth meeting spotlight." Leanne Morgan didn't just walk out that night, she walked into legend, proving that a little Southern steel can bend the biggest stages. So next time life hands you a showdown, channel your inner Leanne. Speak bold, love fierce, and if it gets too hot, honey, just keep on walking. The world's waiting for your encore. Phew, that was a ride, wasn't it? If you want me to spin it even longer or add a sequel, just holler. Y'all have a blessed day.